The Boys TV show is coming back for its third season, and if the first looks are any indication, it promises more gleeful, bloody insanity than ever before. But if you look at this deranged world of Supes, the question everyone asks is just who is the most powerful? That's a tough question since everyone has such a dangerous and unique skill set. But that's what I'm here today to talk about. Join me as I break down the strongest Supes in The Boys to see who comes out on top. Let's get started right now. Soldier Boy is probably the biggest high-profile new character in The Boys Season 3, and his role in the show still seems like a big question mark. But if he's anything like his comic counterpart, then we're going to be in for a serious treat. Because even though he may not be the strongest, as evidenced of where he's ranked on this list, he's still being set up to be a very important character. But what can we expect from Soldier Boy as portrayed by Jensen Ackles? Well, the hints from the show suggest that Soldier Boy is a soldier who fought in World War II and has some sort of anti-aging ability like Stormfront. And while the show may go that route, it's just as likely that they'll follow the comic backstory and just say Soldier Boy is a title passed down from one hero to the next with every generation. Think of Soldier Boy like Captain America. He's super strong, super fast, and expert in hand-to-hand combat, and is handy with a shield. And in the comics, he's portrayed as generally a do-gooder. Sure, he's awful, just like the rest of them are awful, but he does want to be a hero and refuses to take part in the debauchery and vulgarity that often takes place all around him. Remember that Captain America joke about him not using bad language in Avengers Age of Ultron? Well, Soldier Boy is supposed to be sort of like that. But although he seems like a carbon copy of Captain America, the one major difference is that he's actually a big coward who wants to always run away if the fight isn't going his way. Can't wait to see how he shakes things up this season. The Deep in the Amazon show is clearly a parody of Aquaman and all the useless fish jokes that has haunted the character for years. He's pretty strong and can swim like a champ, but he doesn't really add much to any fight he's in. Like, if you're in the water, then yes, absolutely he'll destroy you, but on dry land, he's incredibly beatable. It also helps that he's kind of an idiot. He's easily manipulated and also has a desire to be loved and accepted, which makes him easy to trick. But hey, at least he can talk and communicate with sea creatures, which is a pretty underrated ability. So on the power levels, he's alright, but just doesn't make that big of an impact. A-Train is a speedster, and everyone knows how powerful speedsters are. I always find speedsters to be either the best or the worst members of a superhero team. Best in the way that they should really always win any fight, and worst when the writers have forgot how fast the speedster can go and what they're able to do. It's frustrating when someone who supposedly is the fastest man on Earth gets caught or anything like that. And the reason that I'm alright with that in The Boys is because it makes it clear how messed up and conflicted A-Train usually is. He's a self-serving jerk a lot of the time and desperately wants to stay in the spotlight. But his fear of both Homelander and his general conscience sometimes points him toward doing the right thing. He's also experienced heart issues in the past, and his body is weak enough where other heroes like Kimiko can break his legs rather easily. That's not ideal for a speedster. Plus, he has trouble controlling himself, which is sort of the whole issue that kicks off the start of Season 1 with Huey's girlfriend. Translucent proved to be the first major antagonist the boys had to face, and the show did a great job in showing the boys' problem-solving skills. Translucent as a hero is a pretty useful member of the team. He has the ability to turn invisible, which allows him to sneak into almost anywhere, and his skin makes him practically invulnerable, on the outside at least. You might just think he has the ability to vanish at will, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that. His skin turns into a carbon metamaterial that bends the light around him, sort of like an invisibility cloak. When he's in his invisible state, he's basically indestructible, and it took some clever thinking from the boys to take him out once and for all. I ranked him above A-Train and the Deep just because of how generally tough he is to find and capture. If he truly wanted to disappear, then that wouldn't be that hard for him. Plus, I think invulnerability and invisibility basically counts as two powers, don't you? Starlight is the character in the show that I'm always the most worried about. Unlike the boys, who operate secretly and independently, Starlight is often both in the public spotlight and also always has to be around the Viper's nest that is Vought in Homelander. Like, she has serious courage to be around Homelander when at any moment that psychopath could snap and eliminate everyone. But she knows that she has to continue fighting to take Vought down and will always do whatever it takes in order to do the right thing. But let's talk about her powers for a moment because they're pretty useful. Besides some standard super strength, healing, and durability, she's most known for her electricity powers. She has this electrical conversion ability that allows her to absorb electricity around her in order to give her more power and deliver focused light blasts toward her enemies. She can basically stun powerful foes or even knock weaker heroes out with her concussive light blasts, which is pretty neat. Oh, and if you're ever in need of a flashlight, she can make her eyes and hands glow on command, which is helpful if you're ever stuck in the dark. Nakib was a fascinating idea of a character that ultimately didn't get a big chance to make an impact. So the whole point of the show is that Vought controls Compound V, which is the substance that makes superheroes. But then things get messy when Homelander releases the compound to the world in an attempt to create enemies that would make the Seven appear useful to the US government. This ended up giving the villain Nakib a set of serious superpowers that included self-detonation and durability. He looked like he was being set up as the major antagonist of Season 2 and would eventually have to face Homelander. But nope, in the opening episode of Season 2, Black Noir did his ninja thing and immediately eliminated Nakib by decapitating him. So although he was initially thought to be very important, his reign as a major villain didn't last very long. Another new character that's set to make a big splash in Season 3 of The Boys is Crimson Countess, who is obviously a play on Scarlet Witch. We don't quite know the extent of her role yet, but her powers will be an interesting addition to the show. She's basically all about fire. She has her own heat vision, which, as we learned so far on the show, is probably one of the most dangerous superpowers you could have, and can control and manipulate fire around her. This is interesting since last season introduced Lamplighter, who also had heat manipulation abilities, but that didn't end up going so well for him. Plus, as an added bonus, the only other thing we seem to know about her is that she can sing. Will that be an important plot point? Probably not, but who knows? Queen Maeve is the Wonder Woman stand-in, and her arc over the course of the 2 seasons is altogether pretty tragic. When we first meet her, she's a broken shell of the hero she once was. She once believed in the ideologies of being a true hero, but over time had come to accept the grim realities of things. But as time went on and she started to regain her heroism and conscience, she started to live in fear that Homelander would retaliate and eliminate her true love, Elena. Powers-wise, she's labeled as the second strongest person in the world behind Homelander, and that comes with a natural set of durability, speed, and agility. She can't fly, but she can use her endurance and her strength to leap tall buildings in a single bound. In the end, she comes in clutch with helping the boys beat both Stormfront and Homelander, and even basically saves everyone's lives by blackmailing Homelander to let Billy and Ryan walk away safely and to stop hunting Starlight. She's incredibly powerful, but also now she's probably #1 on Homelander's hit list, which is an incredibly dangerous place to be. Kimiko, aka The Female, is perhaps the single greatest asset the boys have on their team. Yes, Billy is a great leader and Frenchie is great with explosives, but they truly need Kimiko if they were ever to be considered a threat. After finding Kimiko imprisoned in a cage, they let her out, and that leads to her unveiling her feral powers. Not only is she super strong and fast, meaning she's able to hold her own against heroes like Black Noir, but she also has an insane healing ability. She's revived and regenerated from disembowelment, from gunshots, from a broken neck, from electricity attacks, all of it. She's able to quickly get up and walk away from. She may not be Homelander level strong, but she's still able to rip people's faces off like they were tissue paper, so it's a pretty safe plan to remain on her good side. Victoria Newman is a double dose of danger. She's not only a powerful congresswoman with a loyal anti-Supe following and the founding director of the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs, but she's also an incredibly powerful Supe. But the big twist? Nobody knows it. It was revealed in the Season 2 finale of The Boys that Newman was the mysterious head popper, who has a skill set that's pretty self-explanatory. But now I have to apologize to my saintly editor Ben, who has to find a way to show what I'm talking about without showing what I'm talking about, because Newman's power leaves a big mess. One of the most memorable scenes in The Boys Season 2 is when during a congressional hearing, heads start popping like balloons in a blink of an eye. But even though she's not to be messed with, there are a few cracks in her armor. Her head popping skills don't work against people who can regenerate, and it does seem like she needs to be in close proximity to the person in order to do it, and probably needs some sort of sightline. Plus, her eyes glow white when she does it, so that's a pretty clear giveaway. Newman has the potential to be much higher on this list, but until we get a complete explanation of what she's capable of, she's ranked here. Stormfront was one of the most exciting additions to Season 2 of The Boys. She proved to be a compelling antagonist who could manipulate Homelander, and although she gave off a fun, light-hearted personality, she was probably the most rotten hero we had seen yet on the show. She has a certain agenda that she tries to push toward the world, and she ends up succeeding in a lot of ways, which is kind of terrifying to think about. Her powers are basically on a whole other level of strength, like Homelander, with her being able to produce electricity, having super strength, and being able to use her electricity to do things like fly. She was like a mixture of Thor meets Shazam, but only a million times more racist. And her history turned out to be pretty fascinating. She was the first hero ever to be created with Compound V back during World War II, and she's lived this long thanks to the side effects. I know people wondered with the gender swap from male to female from the original comic character if the show would follow the original Stormfront storyline, and I would argue that they enhanced it with the new backstory. Stormfront wasn't eliminated completely by the end of Season 2, so now the question is whether she can return even worse than before? One of the most terrifying superhero encounters in The Boys Season 2 was when Cindy was unleashed at the Sage Grove Mental Institution. At first, we didn't quite know what she was capable of, but only that the guards were scared of her. They tried to shoot her, but it had no effect, and then we watch her use her telekinesis powers to cause anyone close to her to explode. It's extremely gory, and again, apologies to my editor Ben, who I know I probably owe a nice flower arrangement or something. And unlike Victoria Newman, who presumably can be hurt in normal ways, Cindy appears indestructible, with things like bullets and even Stormfront's electricity not being enough to keep her down permanently. Wherever Cindy shows up next, we should all be afraid. Homelander is the embodiment of the idea about what if Superman was actually evil? And the answer? Absolutely terrifying. Homelander, as of now, looks like the strongest hero on Earth. His heat vision is enough to turn any unlucky individual into hot goo. He has super speed, flight, and highly enhanced vision. He's also nearly indestructible, with nothing ever being able to hurt or harm him physically. Many heroes on this list just have a strong regeneration factor, but you really don't need a regeneration factor when your body is impenetrable, and his weakness only makes him more dangerous. He's a very unstable individual who always looks like he's 2 seconds away from going on a massive heat vision spree. He's also incredibly careless with human life and never hesitates to stomp on us mere mortals like ants. But he also seems to suffer from severe self-esteem issues, and I can't really tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, on the good side, those issues can be exploited. On the bad side, it makes him volatile and more likely to crush your bones into dust. Unless someone else comes along, Homelander is the biggest physical threat to the boys, and until he's gone, no one will ever truly be safe. Ryan Butcher is the son of Homelander and Becca Butcher and has the potential to be the most powerful Supe in all of the boys, and it's only his young age and lack of developed powers that prevent him from reaching that top spot. But again, the potential is there. Ryan is known as the first natural-born Supe, instead of one that was created by Compound V, and the ramifications of this still haven't been fully explored. And his general isolation in life has led to a few weaknesses like fear of large crowds and being sensitive to loud noises. But that doesn't necessarily matter when his strength levels seem off the charts. Look at what he did to Stormfront. When his rage got the better of him, Ryan used his heat vision to completely decimate Stormfront and turned her into a burnt marshmallow. That's insane, given that we saw how much Homelander's heat vision didn't have much effect on the seemingly indestructible hero. There's a storyline in the comics about how a clone of Homelander was created in order to eventually stop Homelander, and maybe the show is adapting that to fit with Ryan's character instead. Black Noir is still an enigma wrapped up in a stylish black supersuit, and the fact that we still don't know his true face or history in the show makes him all the more terrifying. He has just about every ability you'd expect from a superpowered ninja. He's super strong, has an insane regeneration ability, can outrun a car, and is a master fighter and athlete. He either doesn't feel pain or he's so used to it that he doesn't react when it's inflicted on him. He's the scariest member of the Seven and probably the last one you want hunting you down. Homelander has proven to be beatable by breaking his fragile ego and exploiting his vanity, but Black Noir seems to have no weakness except a serious tree nut allergy. He's like the Terminator and will just keep coming at you no matter what. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Major spoilers for The Boys comics, but Black Noir is revealed to be a Homelander clone who was created in order to one day take out Homelander if Vought ever lost control of him. He's the ultimate failsafe package. Of course, in the comics, this becomes complicated when Black Noir also goes a little crazy, but what do you expect? And the big question is still whether The Boys TV show will go this route? Seems a little unlikely with the introduction of Ryan, as well as changing up the storyline in regards to Becca Butcher, but I guess never say never, right? What do you think? Do you think The Boys should keep the Homelander clone storyline or tweak Black Noir's character to be someone else? The trailer for The Boys Season 3 also shows Billy finally getting a much-needed power upgrade. Where do you think Billy will fall on the most powerful list after his transformation? Do you think he'll be stronger than Homelander? That's something I would love to see.